Hi, everyone. Well, I don't know how many everyone is there. We're bang on three. So I expect that people will trickle in. This is Rowan from Sports Tech X bringing you the first Sports Tech radar of the year. We're already at the end of June. It feels a bit late. Normally, we do these a bit earlier, but it's a nice, beautiful, sunny day in Berlin. I don't get to say that often either. So it's when you have nice weather like this, it's good to enjoy it and good to enjoy it with a sports tech radar. We've got a fun topic, a report that we published a couple of weeks ago, a little more than a couple of weeks ago, which was featuring innovation leaders from various sports organizations, various leading sports organizations, talking about the challenges they face when it comes to implementing innovation projects or just generally connecting with startups in the innovation ecosystem in sports. So for that report, that's the webinar that we're hosting today. And we've got a bunch of people that were in that report on the webinar to talk about, to share their perspective and to let us know what they think are these challenges and what are the big opportunities as well. I'll bring them on stage one by one so that they can do a little intro and then we'll get into the report. I'll start with Mitch Heath, the co-founder of Teamworks, who are the co-presenters of this report. Great to have you, Mitch.
Thank you, Ron, and good morning, afternoon, evening to everybody listening. First off, a huge thank you to the Sports Tech X team. We love partnering with these guys. Anybody listening knows that the power of their research and data is really important, and to be able to produce a report like this is a lot of fun for us, and just lets us dive into what the industry is thinking. So thank you, Ron, to your team. Quick introduction: Mitch Heath, as Ron said, co-founder here at Teamworks, operating system for sport. We focus on all tech touching the athlete. We're the backbone, the tech backbone for elite sporting organizations. I individually spend a lot of my time talking with teams around the world, talking about their innovation strategy, talking about their tech vision and how they're going to move their team forward over the coming years.
Brilliant. Great to have you, Mitch. Always fun to collaborate with the Teamworks team as well. Just to sound out that there is a bit of a delay. We know this. We are streaming live to LinkedIn and YouTube. So basically, I think if you're watching this, you're about a minute or so behind us. But please feel free to drop in on the chat. First of all, tell us where you're from. Where are you signing in from? I hope your day or evening or morning is as beautiful as it is in Berlin. Let us know with a quick chat. Say hello, drop your name, and tell us where you're from in the chat, which is open on YouTube and LinkedIn. Okay, next up, I'm going to bring on former Olympian and athlete representative at the IOC, Rodrigo Garza. Rodrigo Garza. Welcome.
Hello, Ron. Thank you very much. And sorry to correct you, but we never call ourselves former Olympians. We are Olympians forever.
Perhaps my bad. How could I make that mistake?
That's what we share with all the Olympians. They always need to say they're Olympians, not ex-Olympians. But thank you very much for inviting me. I have to say I follow you from the beginning since you started, and I like very much everything that you produce, and it's really, really helpful. So, look, just very quick intro on myself. As you were mentioning, I was an Olympian. I'm an Olympian. I participated in 2000, 2004, 2008 with the Spanish hockey team. And after my hockey career, I have developed my professional career in sports marketing. So I have worked in the last 15 years for both for brands and rights holders, for Unilever, Adecco, where I was global sponsoring director, or for rights holders like the International Olympic Committee, where I'm working at the moment. I'm really lucky to work with some sponsors of the Olympic movement like Deloitte, Coca-Cola, Allianz, etc. And as you can imagine, quite busy with the Paris Olympic Games around the corner. Also, I have to say that 7 years ago, I started investing and advising sports tech companies. So that's my link with you guys. And I'm very happy to talk today about the sport innovation with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodrigo, for making the time. And my apologies once again. I have to be introduced in the right way. But Rodrigo, as you said, is an old friend. And appreciate that you've been following us for a while, as has Carolina Shapiro from Juventus. Carolina, welcome on stage as well.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today. Let's say it's an honor to be among this, let's say, this stage and these people. Ron, a personal thank you because I said also, Rodrigo, I'm exactly as him following you since the beginning. Let's say I've started for surfing in the innovation ecosystem since we can say 2 years because the innovation function in Juventus is brand new. We are sort of startups, an internal startups. And, as everybody starting from scratch in a new field, having some reference and, let's say, important content to look at, it's so important to having a better understanding of, let's say, the topic. And so, of course, I found always very interesting the opportunity to look, let's say, at what you are doing, definitely, and this report. I'm here to bring, let's say, the club perspective. Innovation is so important. It's so important, and I think even more day by day. And so it's a pleasure for me to join you.
Thank you, Carolina, for making the time. I love that idea of a club like Juventus thinking like a startup, which is great. That's how we like to think. So it's a culture of innovation, a culture of failure, a culture of learning, shall we say, and then moving forward. Brilliant. So thank you all for joining us. Today, I'm going to take you off stage now while I go into the report. I know you want to hear from everybody here. Mitch providing a perspective of a solution provider in the sports industry. Rodrigo, of course, is a former athlete and representing the IOC in an Olympic year. Lots to talk about with him, and Carolina representing professional sports and a football club and how they think of innovation. So I'm sure you want to hear from all of them. First, I'm going to actually walk you through the report in case you missed it, you haven't downloaded it. So we're going to take 15 minutes or so to talk about the findings from the report, and then I will bring everybody back on stage and we have a quick discussion. So thank you guys. Bear with me for 15 minutes. Meantime, say hello, don't be shy. We've got Kabir coming in from Goa, India. Nice to see you, Kabir, as always, a regular for our content. Sammy from, I don't know if you're from Stockholm or Helsinki or you've got a foot in both places. But thanks for joining us. Everybody else, drop a shout out. Let us know where you're from. Let us know which organization you're representing. Feel free to get in touch with us either on LinkedIn or through our website or any channels if we can be of any help. For now, I'm going to actually kick us off into this report. So once again, to set the context, Teamworks and Sports TechX partnered to publish a report on innovation challenges faced by sports organizations. This was published just a couple of weeks ago. In this report, we talked about, or we did a survey of innovation leaders from various sports organizations. For anybody who doesn't know what Teamworks is or heard or missed Mitch's intro, it is essentially the operating system for sports. A very large company based out of the US, serving 6,500 teams worldwide with over 1 million athletes, 18 million active athlete logins, like big numbers. Yeah, they're serving 90% of the Premier League, 97% of the NFL. I've always asked them for names about who are these 1 or 2 missing teams. They've been reluctant to share and shame those teams. But no, it's not about shame. It's just about moving forward. But clearly, as you can see from the numbers, they do a lot of cool stuff. They have solutions to help with operations, to help with performance, branding, athlete development, recruitment, and with compliance. Hi, Christian from Berlin and Martin from Paris, Pavel also from Berlin. So we've got more people enjoying this beautiful sunny day in Berlin on the chat with us now. Sports TechX, for somebody who doesn't know, which I can't imagine, there's too many people here. Hi, Martin, as well. I assume that you guys know more or less what we do. We're a market intelligence platform for everything around sports and innovation. We create a lot of content like we're doing today. We do some consulting work for sports organizations or corporates, especially in terms of publishing research. And then we help startups with fundraising. There's a bunch of content, as you can see on our channels. Shout out to Marek from Estonia and Jennifer based in the UK. Nice to have all of you with us. And no matter when you've joined in, drop us a shout out. Always good to hear from people who are with us today. We've had a lot of major organizations represented in this report that we're going to talk about. Just jump slides a bit. But before I get to the summary of the survey, I want to talk about who we spoke to. You can see some big logos there from Chelsea, Atletico Mineiro, from Brazil, FC Barcelona, the MLS across the pond, Juventus, of course. You've got Carolina here today, the IOC, of course. You've got Rodrigo here today, EuroLeague Basketball, London Marathon, Swiss Uni Hockey, which, if you don't know, it's not hockey, it's a separate sport, but they also innovate in these smaller sports as well. Of course, the DFL, the KNBB, and Tennis Australia. So big names, big logos, and this is not all the names that were surveyed. We had other participants who chose to remain anonymous. But what we try to do is more quality over quantity, really get a live perspective of innovation leaders at top organizations across the world and learn about what they feel are the challenges and opportunities around sports innovation. Good to have you, Ignacio, from Peru, but based in Madrid. Me encanta Madrid. I lived there for a year, and it's a city that'll always be in my heart. Talking about the report itself, what were some of the key findings that we had? I'm going to motor through this because you can download the report. It's available for free. We'll have the link for you in the chat. Casey, if you're here from our team, she'll drop the report link. But quickly, some of the key highlights. 3.8 out of 5 was the average rating for the level of maturity at the sports organization around innovation. Now, for anybody who's spending any sort of time on the internet, the moment a rating goes before 4, you're probably not eating at that, below 4, you're probably not eating at that restaurant, you're not staying at that hotel. Yeah, so 3.8 is a very decent score, but it should be higher, and we need to push it higher. But also gives us some cause for optimism that the innovation leaders feel that they are in a decent position. Time and effort required to implement change was rated as one of the top 3 challenges by 83% of the people surveyed. So most number of people highlighted time and effort required to implement change as a major challenge. Essentially, it's about resources, and limited resources that these leaders have to work with. 67% highlighted an integrated solution. And by an integrated solution, we are talking about a solution that covers across topics from managing performance, managing communication, managing administrative tasks, managing compliance-related tasks, all of that going into one place as a big need for athletes. And why we say all of that going into one place is because there clearly has been a fragmentation now, and maybe there's a bit of app fatigue. We see this personally in our lives, on our phones as well, that there are individual apps for a lot of things, and which are great at what they do, but maybe it's a bit easier if that all of that is happening in one place. And you're seeing this trend of super apps being built, and maybe there's an opportunity for that in sports as well. We'll definitely hear from Teamworks and their thoughts on that. And the number one area of importance for innovation in the near future, in the next 2 or 3 years, was player development. So the athlete is a big part of the focus for sports organizations. Yeah, I covered this already about the main leaders that we spoke to. But quickly, why are we having this conversation? And I'd like to take a step back about why sports tech is important, is because sports is important on a global stage, and it is getting attention like never before. And a big reason for continued investment in sports tech is because there is so much new money coming into sports. And as money, where money goes, innovation follows, is the line that I pull out very often. And this money is coming from multiple different sources. The 3 big ones that we like to highlight are institutional investors, the growing number of VCs and PEs that are entering the world of sports. Sports team valuations are at record highs. The number of transactions in terms of investments in sports teams, leagues, federations across sports, across geographies. You didn't have transactions like Mark Cuban selling the Mavs for over $3 billion, or Michael Jordan before him, again for $3 billion. A recent transaction in Manchester United highlighted, or investment I should say, highlighted a valuation nearly $6 billion. Formula One has an average team value of about $1 billion. Alpine F1's recent investment round showcased that, and these are skyrocketing from the levels that they were 3 or 5 years ago. And these are, by the way, the entry points that VC and PE money is coming into sports. These are financial investors, right? So they're looking for an appreciation on their investment. So if they're coming in at valuations of $3-5 billion or euros, depending on the currency, where do they think that this can go in the next 3 or 5 years? Because they're looking for a significant appreciation in their investment. So institutional investor interest is growing. The rise of the Middle Eastern investor. Every few years, you see a new state investing in sports, but I think we've finally reached the big daddy of them all in Saudi Arabia, and the way they're continuing to invest in sports to genuinely disrupt them. We've seen the impact that they've had in golf. We are seeing the impact they are having in tennis, and in other sports, in boxing, in MMA, their own football league, and the kind of players that they're attracting. So as investment in Saudi, from Saudi and from Qatar and Bahrain and the UAE continues, they're all looking at sports tech. I've been in calls earlier this week from players in those ecosystems that they're all looking at innovation as a big part of the future and certainly part of the budget of what they spend on. And lastly, and this is a big one, that big tech is big on sports. Apple's deal with the MLS, Amazon streaming live sports for the NFL, for the Premier League, for the Champions League here in Germany. Google picking up live sports rights. Netflix has live sports rights now, by the way, if you don't know. The WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, you might not consider that sport, but after their $21 billion merger with the UFC, and now the joint entity combined called TKO, that's big money. And that event, their live stream on Netflix now. Netflix has also picked up a live ticket of a live NFL ticket. So they're going to be streaming Christmas games over Christmas weekend, I believe, or whatever the dates those are. But over the Christmas period, NFL games will be on Netflix. So the fact that these big tech companies are investing in live sports clearly shows that they are looking at sports as a way to add more subscribers, to sell more Apple products, to sell more Amazon Prime subscriptions, to sell more Netflix subscriptions. They're all relying on sports in a big way. Apart from live broadcasts, they're also innovating in a bunch of other areas: fan experience, AI commentary for IBM, Oracle doing stuff with the Formula One and other leagues. It's a really interesting time that tech is investing in sports. Shout out to Marek, who talks about player development. Is it important to all organizations or mostly to clubs? We'll ask that question to Rodrigo, why don't we? And get his perspective. Shout out to Joao from Portugal. Thank you for joining us. We've also got important trends for the future of sports. And there are so many that we can talk about, but there are 3 key buckets that I like to focus on: solutions for the athletes, solutions for the fan, and solutions for the sports executive. For the athlete, we've mentioned this already as a result of the survey. Maybe there's too much fragmentation already that we've seen. There are too many solutions for, data, a place to gather my performance data, a different place to gather my nutritional data, a different place to gather my sleep and recovery data, a different place to manage my calendar and my admin tasks. Maybe it's getting a bit too much. Maybe an integrated solution to manage these various needs all in one place is the way forward. Certainly at the elite level, perhaps at the amateur level and recreational level, there are still opportunities for specialized solutions. But at the elite level, it sounds like there's a bit of fatigue. For the fan, everybody's talking about fan experience and how that can be enhanced, whether at home or in venue. And our fan experience is a broad topic, from social content or social media content, or fans generating content, or fans being delivered content. How does that improve the experience of actually watching at home or in venue? I was at the opening game in Berlin of the Euro, Spain versus Croatia. It was a great game to watch, but there wasn't much by way of, let's say, fan experience delivered to me in stadium. There was one kind of interaction that they had, like fan cam, which worked for 30 seconds during halftime, and we couldn't get on. The app didn't work properly. There is so much sports can do to better engage with fans, especially in the stadium, but also at home. Then you talk about virtual worlds. Then you talk about fantasy sports and betting. Yeah, there's so much that so many different ways to engage with a fan today. And for the executive, the last profile, people who are working in the industry, people like Carolina and Rodrigo, solutions that can help them deliver a better experience to their fans, to their stakeholders, to their partners, to improve efficiency, to create new revenue opportunities, all of that good stuff, whether it's in terms of broadcasting innovation, venue tech, tournament management, sponsorship media and sponsorship measurement, so many different areas that they could look at. Now, I'm going to go into the survey. By the way, the report also has a case study from Chelsea. We've got Sam Poplet, who is on the football development who plays a strategic role in football development, and how they use teamwork, and kind of hearing from them a first-person perspective of how they use this interesting solution and how it's benefited Chelsea. So check out the report for a first-person case study from Sam as well. I've covered some of these topics before, but there is more. Incorporation of AI in business processes rated as the number one trend. AI in sport is a key part. 75% rated impact on the end user fan as the most important factor when making innovation related decisions. 92% rated performance data management as analytics as the main innovation tool that they provide to their athletes. These are all just some of the results from this survey. And by the way, each question from the survey is, I've given you a quick preview here. I'm not going to go through all of the text. Thanks, Rohit, for dropping the link to the survey. If you haven't downloaded it yet, you can do that right now. So we've had topics addressed like how many of these sports organizations have a visible innovation initiative? How do they rate their organization as a score of 5 on various parameters, on their business model, on their culture of innovation? Are they empowered innovation teams? What are the 3 challenges that they face? Like I mentioned, time and effort required to implement change is a big one. What else? They also talked about the key factors. Who are the decision makers when it comes to innovation? What are the main tools that they use? What solutions that they think would benefit athletes? And that's where the integrated solution came from. The text is probably too small to read for now, but again, that's minutia of this report. The idea is to show you some of the content that is in there. We also talk about what the importance of various topics is right now, and what the importance of various topics will be in 2 or 3 years. So, for example, sports performance is the highest rated topic right now, but in 2 or 3 years, player development is higher rated. Commercial and business operations go up. Health and nutrition, for example, is a bit lower right now, but the expectancy is that the importance will rise in a couple of years. Ticketing, for example, is really important right now, but the perception is that the importance of ticketing will decrease in a few years. So some interesting results across the survey, and then of course hearing from opinions. I'm going to bring this section home with the key takeaways from the survey, and then now I'm going to bring back all the panelists so that we can actually have a discussion. Number one, the topic of innovation is clearly important to all organizations today, but has plenty of room to grow still. Number two, multiple solutions talking to each other multiple solutions not talking to each other, I should say, doesn't really help. An integrated solution that an organization knows what's happening in different parts of the organization is important, not just for the athlete, but also for operationally. And number three, understanding the needs of the modern athlete is also crucial for the success of an innovation program. There you go. That is the report. You can download it now. And Rohit as well has dropped the link in the chat. With that, I'm going to bring my panel back up. I think you've heard enough from me. And let's hear more from them. I hope this layout works. Hey, you guys, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to hand it over to you. Mitch, let's start with you then. I guess the big question is, why did Teamworks want to work on a report like this? And also, what were your biggest takeaways once you saw the results?
I've got a lot of takeaways, but two reasons to do this. One, data is powerful, right? And as much as I have a anecdotal perspective from the organizations that I talk to about how they're thinking about innovation and strategy, seeing the numbers is an objective view of reality. And I think for all of us, if we are the leaders moving this industry forward, to be able to paint that vision of the future, we've got to have an accurate picture of reality today. So this is a just helpful snapshot of the psychology of leaders in the industry right now. Second thing, the way I think about our leadership role at Teamworks is trying to move the industry forward together, right? And as much as sports is highly competitive, it's also a highly collaborative network. And if there is a great idea about how to improve player care in the NBA, I want Carolina and all of European football to hear that idea. And if we uncover an innovation in Australian rules football, I want to bring that to the rest of the globe, so that we move the industry forward as a unit. So I think some of the things uncovered in this report help us do that. One of the things when you talk about takeaways, I've got a long list, but maybe the thing that stood out to me most, and it was actually mentioned in one of the comments here, was that a lot of the leaders surveyed highlighted player development as a top priority. And when I think about innovation, if we had asked these questions 2 to 3 years ago, I think the answers would have all been about fan experience, right? That was the topic of the day. Every conference you went to, everyone was talking about how do we connect with the fan? How do we innovate? How do we monetize? How do we market? And I've seen this shift more recently to focus back on the player. And I think that's an important and really appropriate shift for the industry. And my hypothesis behind that is we're getting back to focusing on the product on the field or the pitch or the court. And I think we've recognized the fan base is smart. And as much as the fan today looks at sport differently than it did 10 years ago or 20 years ago, all the flashy graphics in the world, the best social media team in the world don't replace having a great product on the field. And fans are, the magic of sport, however it's communicated to fans, is all about human excellence, right? Watching someone do something amazing that we didn't know a human being could do. And so as I look at this report and see teams focusing on how do we innovate in player development, how do we pour back into our athletes, how do we focus on helping them be the best they can, getting that right then allows us to connect with the fan in new and different ways.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think I also expected, to be honest, the results would be more around commercial operations and, fan monetization, which is kind of a bad word. It sounds not so hot, but it's the reality of sports. Sports needs to generate revenue to sustain. So I was expecting more of that, but it actually came to the athlete. So we will hear from the athlete, but first I want to hear from the sports organization. Carolina, you already mentioned, you kind of introduced Juventus as with a startup mindset. I know you've been at Juventus for a long time in various roles as well before you kind of took on the innovation role, right? I want to ask you, what made you take on this role, and how have you seen the evolution of quote unquote innovation during your time at the club?
Let's say that what I've seen is a sort of a new approach. As you correctly say, Juventus has always been an innovative club. We are not inventing innovation today. Probably what has changed is the approach to innovation. So we started work probably in a more structured way to innovation. We switch from some, let's say, spot activities done in different areas of the club to a real, let's say, strategy. So starting from a framework, starting from processes, procedures, from let's say goals and objectives. So this is probably the evolution that innovation has let's say happened in Juventus in the last years. So really approaching innovation in a more, let's say, corporate way, in order to really get the value that can come from, let's say, the innovation ecosystem. Because today, let's say, it's also something that comes from external perspective in a sort of way. We have some, let's say, innovation growing outside this ecosystem, startups starting providing a new solution, different solution, and so this push also internally a sort of discussion about and around innovation. So looking outside and looking this very energetic and let's say very quick movement in a sort of way, we have started internally to discuss about innovation. So we came up to this decision to approach innovation in a more structured way.
Yeah, makes sense. And I'll agree with your first comment for sure that innovation is not new at Juventus. And also you've seen this traditionally at the biggest clubs, that the clubs that are leading on the top of the tables are also, by the way, doing some of the most interesting work behind the scenes around innovation. I'll give you a clear example. Juventus, I think you've recently launched the Juventus Creator Lab.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a new project. Maybe you can quickly
talk about. We're doing a lot of different things because let's say I think that this is also another interesting topic. So what you define as innovative and what is innovation. So this is always inside clubs. I think an interesting difference that you have to keep in mind. But again, we all have always been innovative, and today we also have an innovation project definitely dedicated to innovation.
Yeah, for example, I mean, Manchester United, my club, which, maybe it's not the best moment to be a fan of that club, but I've loved supporting it over the years. They were the first club to launch a dedicated channel like MUTV, for example, back in the, let's say, late 90s, early 2000s. They were the first to do that. Real Madrid have been leaders in so many ways, especially around merchandising. Their partnership with Fanatics, for example, way back in the day, they were ahead of the curve. Today, Man City is by far and away the leader when it comes to innovation off the pitch in terms of partnering with startups, new programs that they launch, and that makes me jealous as a fan of Man United. But it as a person who works in the industry, they're the ones that I watch, and they're the trendsetters in the Premier League, and I can give you more and more examples. Kabir makes a great point to address your earlier point, Mitch, about the focus on the athlete, because he says better player quality gets better, games get better, and the fans spend more time and money on their sport. Can't argue with that. Rodrigo, perfect segue to bring you in to talk about the athlete perspective, because as a former athlete at the highest level, and also now you're looking at athlete partnerships at the IOC, how have your experiences from an athlete and now as a retired professional, how has that affected your perspective on, let's say, again, the evolution of innovation within sports organizations that you've been a part of?
Yeah, look, so I think it's not just myself, but all the athletes are great, can become great advisors, no, on sports tech, especially, they can help closing the gap between technology and practical application, right? I mean, they have the practical experience, they can really guide the entrepreneurs, they can really become with practical ideas, so you can really be very effective if you have athletes on your board and as advisors, right? So they are really important advisors on the industry, and you can see that most of them or many of them are becoming also investors, and they are more and more involved, and they are adding a lot of value to the sector. It was not the case a few years ago, but now everyone recognizes the value that they are bringing, and the perspective that is really important. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to have them also on the sport innovation roles, so to say, and they are certainly driving the innovation. I think also in terms of focus, on the athletes. About if we talk about innovation within the big sport organizations, I think athlete development, as you were mentioning, is one very, very important. For us at the IOC, maybe more than athlete development is more athlete support, and creating a safe ecosystem for them, and helping them on their mental health, on their after career, more than the player development, so to say, or helping them in improving their performance on the pitch. For us, it's more off the pitch, So, but I think it's equally important. There are many new initiatives at the moment to help them off the pitch. So it's also really important, and many associations, many sport organizations are focusing on that. I see many of professional leagues focusing on the support for the athletes on their post career, on their retirement, etc. And I think it's also very important.
So actually, maybe Rick, I'll stay with you, and I'll maybe snake backwards, because you brought up a great point that the IOC is focusing on innovation with athlete development on the pitch, but also supporting the athlete off it.
Yeah.
Can you give me some examples of maybe some initiatives that that the IOC is running?
So look, related to innovation, for example, in
just
Paris,
athlete support, let's say, not just innovation. Yeah.
No, for example, in Paris, we are launching a very interesting initiative, and artificial intelligence powered solution to detect harmless messages, and on social media to athletes, like I was mentioning, to create this safe digital ecosystem for them to perform best. I think it's really important. There are many athletes that are really young, and inexperienced, from 16 years old, 20 years old, and they get a lot of attention, So this artificial intelligence can also help, creating a safe environment from them. So this is a big innovation that we're introducing in Paris. It will work for 12,000 athletes, but also the entourage, the coaches, all the staff around, and we will try to protect them and create a safe environment. Another one I can think that I'm really proud, because I'm directly leading this project, is we are creating the business accelerator. We are creating an accelerator program for athletes to become entrepreneurs. Out of the 12,000 athletes that are competing in Paris in 1 month, 10,000 will be retiring or not competing in the next games. So it's massive, and we need to really focus at IOC as a governing body. We need to focus on helping them on the transition to the labor market, thinking about the next steps of the career. And we are launching this program for them to become entrepreneurs, many of them sports innovation entrepreneurs, So we are accelerating their ideas for 6 months with experts in innovation for them to make reality their business ideas. So that is another one that is really interesting, that we are leading from the IOC in collaboration with some of our partners.
Great to hear. And you're seeing that trend also now, that sports organizations are supporting their athletes a bit more conscious of what, let's say, post-career. Because as you said in your first answer, Rodrigo, athletes are making money like never before. Maybe you feel like you were born 15 years too early. Charles Barkley, famously, he's a, let's say, NBA Hall of Famer, has quoted a few times that if he was born in today's era, he would be coming to the games in a spaceship, because that's how much money he'd be making. Luka Doncic, apparently, with the next CBA, when his contract comes up for renewal, will be making somewhere in the range of $80 to $90 million a year. So yeah, there's a lot of money coming into sports, and for good reason. A big chunk of that is going to the athlete, and no wonder that athletes take up more prominent roles in business and as investors. Carolina, I'll come back to you in terms of where your innovation efforts are focused. So what are the key topics that you all are looking at actively at Juventus? And also, as a side to that, and maybe we'll address the actual title of the report, when you're trying to implement these topics or focus on these areas, what are the biggest issues that you face in implementing innovation projects?
Yeah, I think that in a certain way we have two different streams of challenges, let's say. Some are related exactly the field in which we are looking for a solution, but I think there is an higher stream more related to the process. Let's say, talking or referring to what I said before, that we're trying to be a little bit more structured. Probably one of the biggest challenges for innovation inside a company is to try to find out a sort of translation among the languages of startups and the corporate. corporate language, because we as a corporate has a very strict processes, and of course it's not so always simple to fit which are the solution inside, let's say, these we can say normal processes. So innovation should be or have to be a sort of enabler and also a translator to let this solution come inside. And from a may seem simple, but it's really a mindset change, because this means that corporate need to, or clubs need to accept a little bit of flexibility, and also the idea of test and learn that sometimes is not, it's too, let's say, so easy to accept. So this is definitely, from a process perspective, one of the biggest challenges. So to let to really get the value of innovation, we need to let people understand and talk with, let's say, solution and innovation. On another end, there are challenges more related to the topic of, let's say, innovation itself. So we said, of course, player development, it's a topic, performance analysis, of course, and now with AI, there are plenty of new opportunities that came out from, let's say, this new technology, fun experience, of course. Let's say the opportunity of leverage the technology of a venue, because as you know, we own, we have our proper stadium. So let's say that another, and related to this, another big challenge of innovation is exactly to identify priority and not to be overwhelmed from innovation, because we had these big opportunities to let's say, innovate in a lot of different, let's say, fields. But to be consistent, we need to identify priorities and build a consistent network of partners that may help, let's say, the club surfing through our innovation, because that is another important, let's say, challenge. Outside, innovation is made by plenty of actors. And internally there are a huge amount of challenges. So which are the most important challenges that we have to face, and which are the best solution we need to fit or we can fit with our needs? These are some of, I think, the most important challenges that we are facing now.
Time and effort required to change was rated as one of the #1 challenges. So I think it was 82, 92%, whatever the number was. And that basically connected to Carolina's point that you have limited resources. You have so much that you want to do. How do you get it all in there? And how do you get all the team pointing in the same way? Mitch, I'll come to you. But before that, we have about 17 minutes left in the session, and we're going to make a hard stop. These are busy people, so I have to let them go. And also I have to get to the airport myself. So what I'm going to do is get your, Kabir is, by the way, firing in with more comments. I want more people to jump in with your questions, drop them in right now. And off the fly, let's say we'll have a top question based on whoever the panel likes, and we'll give you 1 year free access to STDB Pro, where you can get a bunch of data, get access to startups, get access to all the investment stuff that we provide. It's about €1,000. We're giving you it for free here. So get your comments, get your questions into the chat. Mitch, I'll bring it to you now. Carolina was talking about the challenges that she comes across. You work with a variety of sports organizations across sports, across geographies. What are the challenges that you see most commonly?
Well, I think Carolina nailed it. And in particular, when she said trying to influence the mindset of innovation, because it really is a mindset, it's a culture. And the teams and organizations that are doing it well, innovation is everyone's job within that organization. It's not just the head of innovation or the IT department. It's part of the DNA where everyone's trying to move forward together. Structure here, I had a business professor who said strategy and strategy implementation are two very, very different things. And the challenges I see usually fall in those buckets. So often teams are very good at one or the other, but the best teams have to be good at both. So the groups that struggle and have challenges with strategy are, the ones that maybe haven't taken the time and deep effort and deep thought to say, who are we 20 years from now? What's our 20-year tech strategy? What's our 20-year finance strategy? What's our 20-year fan engagement strategy? And, they might have a 1-year plan or a 3-year plan, but that's not good enough. And then you have teams that have done that work, but they're struggling with the strategy implementation, the change management, the getting the buy-in, the getting the priorities right, as Carolina mentioned, and how do we actually take that vision and turn it into reality? The teams that get both of those right, that build a great strategy, that communicate their vision, and that build that rollout and that implementation into their culture so that everybody's bought into it, that's where the magic is, and those are the teams that have a strong advantage.
Yeah, super fair. It's that culture of innovation point that we talked about earlier. Okay, so questions are firing in. So I'm gonna let's say bring some of them on stage. Let's do a quick one. Rodrigo, first to you. The last comment, a LinkedIn user, I don't know who you are. Maybe you haven't logged in or something, so it just appears without your name. But Rodrigo, you mentioned a business accelerator. How can somebody get in touch and with a responsible team?
So look, we will launch the new edition in October,
okay.
But I
So
think from the 1st of August, you can pre-register yourself on Athlete 365. It's the platform of the Olympic Committee, the website of the Olympic Committee related to all the athlete programs that we have. So Athlete 365, Business Accelerator, and from the 1st of August, you can already apply for the new edition.
Super. Carolina, I'll come to you with a question from Kabir, who's been firing them in. Thanks, Kabir. And he talks about coaches. You've talked about athlete development. He talks about the coach's perspective. And Kabir, it seems like he works in football in Goa. That's what he mentioned in a previous comment. And he also said that in Indian football is far behind in terms of player development, right? They're in stage 1 in terms of development and performance. So how important from your perspective is it to get that coach's mindset open to innovation? And do you have any tools, any ways that you connect with coaches apart from just the players directly?
Yeah, I think that as said Mitch before, it's not just a matter of the head of innovation, the coach's mindset. It's right, the mindset of the overall club, let's say, that need to be open to new opportunities and new solutions. I'm very lucky because, for example, here in Juventus, there is, let's say, innovation is a sort of bridge among two souls of the club that are the sports department and the corporate side. So we work very closely because, again, innovation is not owned by someone. It's let's say, it's a sort of function that need to create the right context and environment for the innovation to grow among the club. So I think that, of course, coaches need to have this mindset, but coaches exactly as all the other employees of a club, because at the end of the day, as we said before, innovation is an approach before to be a solution.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I'm going to bring maybe a last question to you, and guys, keep firing your questions because I want to get as many of yours in. I have a few questions, of course, in the can, but I want to get as many of yours in as possible. Mitch, I'll throw to you first. Apart from, I mean, let's talk about success stories. Yeah, let's go on positive here. Maybe get one from each of you if we can quickly. So Mitch, maybe talk about a key success story of implementing, let's say, Teamworks in a way. We've heard from Chelsea in the report. Maybe you can highlight another one.
Yeah, I had one on my mind just recently because we just published our top 10 users of our hub product worldwide. And one of the top 10 was a Formula One team, which is a brand new market for us. Aston Martin has implemented and done a great job with the technology. And part of why they've done so well goes back to this point that Carolina and I are talking about of this organization-wide approach. They are really looking at all their engineers, all their technicians as athletes, and looking at how do they serve the entire team, not just the driver, but how do we build this mega team of excellence? And so they've gone all in using tech to do that. It's been really cool to watch.
Aston Martin, we tried to get somebody from motorsport. I was this close to getting somebody from Formula E into the report, but they couldn't come in. So, I mean, motorsports, Formula One is a personal passion of mine. Great to see how much the sport has grown, and it's on the back of innovation, as you said. Questions are coming firing, and great to see everybody's vying for that Sports Tech DB Pro access, it seems. Rodrigo, I'll come to you. There's another follow-up question about the Athlete 365 program, but also I want to hear from you and Carolina next on a success story. So maybe first address Khushi's question. Is the accelerator program different from the Athlete 365 courses? I'm not sure what they are. Maybe you can shed light on.
Yeah, sure. So the Business Accelerator has 3 phases. So the accelerator program is the 3rd phase, you know.
Okay.
on the first phase and the second phase, they learn the basics of entrepreneurship, of how to formulate business idea. And then the third phase, the accelerator program, is a 6-month program to accelerate the ideas with individual mentor, for each athlete. And that's the main difference. That is the third phase for 6 months accelerator program. Yeah.
Perfect. So there are different phases. Kushi, I hope that answers your question. So Rodrigo, going back to you, any success story that you can highlight? You already talked about the implementation of the, let's say, harmful filtration of harmful content from social media, which is a really nice use case. Anything else that you want to talk about? Any partnership that you want to highlight?
Yeah, look, I think that's the main one that we are introducing for Paris. I hope it will work really well and it will be a big success. It's really important for us. The athletes are in the center of Olympism, and it was already piloted, in previous events, Youth Olympic Games, etc. So we are confident that it will be an important one. So I would highlight that one, so because it's really important for us to keep everything safe for our 13,000 athletes that are competing in Paris.
That is a big number. Carolina, I'm also for you to talk about success stories. I know you also have a partnership with We Sport Up, which is a startup accelerator program in Rome. I know there are some companies from there where you might have done some stuff with. Can you talk about some projects that you've got running?
Yeah, of course. We Sport Up has been a very great opportunity for us because it was one of the first activities that we put in place in the innovation ecosystem, and has been very useful to understand and to help us creating our own network. Coming from We Sport Up, we identify startups we're working with. We created, let's say, a proof of concept that went very well, and so we are going to release, let's say, we in a sort of way we put together this strategy of stage and gate. So we passed the first, let's say, stage and gate, and we're going to release our first education platform. In this first, let's say, stage, only aimed to coaches of our academy worldwide. But let's say that we have identified this project in order to test our capability and feasibility of this project in the let's say, e-learning market, and we're going to understand how things are going in the coming months. Another very, let's say, successful story or things that I'm very proud of. I'm going to spoil a little bit because we're going to launch within today and tomorrow the brand new identity of the Juventus Innovation Project. Because let's say, looking at some of the international example that you also mentioned, because are in the report as a first mover, like the Barca Innovation Hub, for example, we're going to launch our identity that will be Juventus Forward. Under this umbrella, we're going to, let's say, tell the story about all the innovation project that we're putting together. And of course, and tomorrow we're going to launch the first innovation partnership in Serie A. Because we have identified an innovation partner that is going to help us to put together some use cases related to the implementation of AI in different fields inside the club, from let's say performance analysis to content creation.
We love a breaking a news story. Juventus Forward. You've heard it here. This is certainly the first I'm hearing of it. So Carolina, thank you for sharing that. Cover the press release once there is, let's say, a public release.
Yeah, the very first time that has been released. Let's say you're probably the first.
Brilliant, love it. Yes, we'll get it through our content for sure. Okay, so I'm going to go to some questions. We've had a bunch of them come in. Let's say, Mitch, I'll come to you. This is a question that was posed from, again, an unknown LinkedIn user. Please sign in so we can get your name. It was for Carolina and Mitch, but I'll throw it to you, Mitch, first. The question is, how can we filter the quality of the huge amount of data we are gathering from our athletes and deliver it in a way that we don't overwhelm them? Love that question.
It's interesting. I think there was kind of a trend maybe in the last decade of collecting as much data as possible. We all knew that we're supposed to have data, so we've put wearables and sensors and every data collection device possible on our athletes. And I've actually seen a trend in the last couple of years where teams are simplifying their data algorithm and going back and saying, what here is actually predictive of performance or predictive of the outcome we're trying to drive. And that doesn't mean the other data isn't valuable. I use the example of hydration data. That might be valuable to collect, but that might not be in our performance algorithm today because we don't know enough about how that's really impacting our athletes. But we're going to keep collecting it because in 5 years, we might have enough insight that we want to add that in and make that a picture of our, perfect athlete profile. So to the user who submitted the question, I would say you can almost start with less is more and say, what do we know is actually predictive? What do we know is actually valuable? Build the foundation of our player data algorithm off of those predictive measures, and then add to it as we get more insight about the other data.
Makes sense. Marek actually made a couple of comments and then raised a question. But Marek, I think we've kind of addressed that. You talked about the struggle to find the challenges within the sports organization. How do you drive innovation? There is an ambition, and also there is a need to communicate. I think we addressed that between Mitch and Carolina, that it's a cultural thing. It has to go across. It's not just on the innovation manager. You have to have a culture of innovation at the club, and then you actually see cool projects coming out like Juventus Forward, or what the IOC is doing, or with Mitch as well. Pranav has a question around marketing. Maybe Carolina, I'll come to you as also maybe Juventus Creator Lab. This might be relevant. How important is our marketing initiatives, such as storytelling and customer evidences, to make a strong case and to build the value of innovation in high performance sports? So good quality storytelling through marketing, does that help you build a case internally to push a project forward?
Yeah, I think that in marketing is so important. Of course, need to be, let's say, story making, not storytelling. So let's say that you need to tell internally and externally things that you're effectively doing. But it's so important because, again, if we're talking about spread out a mindset, you need to do through how stories and through how concrete examples. So involving people and letting people, let's say, involved. So I really think that building strong contents, obviously based on real challenges and experiences, so important or to spread out, let's say, the innovation message and mindset.
Makes a lot of sense. Kabir, I'm actually going to put your question to Rodrigo as well. We heard from Carolina's side about, let's say, how they connect with coaches. And by the way, their Sportwig e-learning platform for coaches. I don't know if that's available for public access because, like I said, it looks like Kabir is working in football as a coach in India, in Goa. So I don't know if he has access to that. Maybe we can try to get you some. But Rodrigo, in your experience as an athlete, how important was it for you that coaches were trying new things and trying new technology and bringing that into the athlete's purview? Or was it the athletes driving it, or was it the coaches driving it?
Look, I think it's always coaches driving it, right? And the athletes at the beginning have a bit of resistance, to it, because it's a new thing that you need to they are getting information from you. It's a new commitment, something that you need to constantly take a look at, and pay attention. So I think athletes at the beginning put some resistance on it. So we need to really explain the benefits for them, and we need to really share the data and explain them how it will be helpful for them to improve the performance, right? But I think in my opinion, it's always coaches. The problem comes from the management. The coaches are requesting a lot of tools, but then what is the budget? What is the existing tools that we have? How can we consolidate everything into one simple solution? So I think coaches, in my opinion, and my experience, especially in hockey, they are really, really innovators. They are really always looking for the latest innovations, and they always drive innovation. But in the other hand, the athletes need to improve a bit, and be less resistant on new things coming.
Interesting to hear. So coaches in general are more open because I guess they're looking for that fine margins and the fine edge, and then it's about communicating that in a good way to the athlete. I think that's about a wrap. We have a minute left, and I'm going to end on the last question. I'm going to maybe 30 seconds each if you can summarize it. Thank you so much, first of all, everyone who's contributed, to Mitch, to Rodrigo, to Carolina. to the entire Teamworks team on the background, to the entire Sports Tech X team on the background, and for all those amazing questions. I think we have to figure out a way to upvote. I think maybe Kabir had quite a few, so we're in there. Marek had a couple of good ones. But I like to believe that we're all sports fans first, in some cases professional athletes first, but we're all sports fans, and this is the joy of working in this industry. So quickly, I'd like to ask each of the panel to tell us, what has been your favorite sporting moment? Mitch, maybe I'll start with you.
I'll give one for the baseball fans listening. We lost one of the greatest baseball players of all time in Willie Mays recently, someone who changed the game on and off the field in big ways. And I wanted to honor him with my story here. I got to see him at the San Francisco Giants spring training, and he was in his, I don't know, late 80s or 90s, could barely walk out to the field. But he got out there and he was standing with all the young pitchers, telling them what they were doing wrong, saying, if you threw me that curveball, I would have hit it 400 over center field. And I love that. At the age of 80 or 90, he was out there still talking trash, giving them a hard time.
Love that. Once a professional athlete, I guess, so once a trash talker. Rodrigo, I know clearly you have to go, but if you can drop a quick favorite sporting moment.
Look, I was thinking about it, and I think, now that the Olympics are coming, I have to mention Usain Bolt, in 2008 with the 3 gold medals, I was lucky to see the 100 meters final, and that was totally amazing, I think still it's impressive, every time you see those images. So for me, Usain Bolt in 2008.
Historic moment, and maybe we can dab our way out of that. We'll save the audience that. Carolina, your favorite sporting moment, please.
It's so difficult. Sporting moments are always linked with personal, stories. But I think that one of the best, I think, having also Rodrigo is about an Olympics, let's say, because I remind Stefano Baldini winning the gold medal at the marathon in 2004, entering inside Athens, the city of Olympic Games. Let's say running this, marathon has a lot of different meanings. So probably this one, let's say, sorry if I haven't mentioned, I can mention also a soccer moment, but let's say, if we talk about sports moment, let's say the last, kilometers were amazing.
And that's why I love to ask this question, because there are so many types of answers that we get. I had somebody who talked about their experience as a parent and taking their kid to sports, and people talk about it as an athlete, people talk about their favorite moment as fans, and everywhere that this answer comes from always ends with a smile on our face. We're 2 minutes over. The questions are still flying in. Sorry, we're not taking any more. Appreciate all the users. We've got some moments coming in. People talking about 7-1, Germany, Brazil. Looks like you're an Indian, but you're celebrating a German win. Kabir actually says, Rodrigo, he was lucky to watch you play hockey in India in the 2009 World Cup. So I think Kabir has to take the award now. He has to get the Pro DB just for a shout out. So Kabir, your Pro DB access will be coming your way. That's a wrap, guys. We've gone 3 minutes over, so I'm going to have to shut this down. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. Thank you, Mitch, Rodrigo, and Carolina once again. Drop us a line, get in touch with us on LinkedIn, download the report for more good content. And we'll see you guys soon.